So, thank you guys so much for taking the time out tonight. Hopefully, we'll keep this around 20 minutes. I'm not going to keep you here too long. The goal of this call really is to give you guys an update of where the organization is in our thought process, decision-making process for this summer. Some of you probably have some of these details from your individual coaches. We'll continue to get some of this information from your coaches, but we're going to just kind of lay out what has gone into it, where we are now, different things tonight, in an effort to be totally transparent with you guys about our thought process. Before we get into that, I just want to take a second to kind of acknowledge that this is a really difficult time. I wish I was seeing and talking to you all at S2 instead of at my house, but it's a charged time. There's a lot of emotions. We've never been a part of anything like this in our lifetime. And so everyone is dealing with different things. Every individual is coming at this with different emotions, different problems, struggles, worries. Maybe you're scared. You know, we have people that feel scared, whether you're scared of the virus that's going on, you're scared of sort of the unknown that's happening, you're scared of losing your job, you're scared for your daughter's emotional well-being. There's a lot of things that might feel that fear. You might be overwhelmed. We're all juggling a lot right now, juggling sort of working from home, suddenly being our kids' teacher. I have 2 toddlers at home, so we might be feeling overwhelmed by the situation, feeling angry or frustrated. Feels like in a blink of an eye things change so quickly, and things that we were looking forward to and expecting, whether we're talking softball or different things in our life, sort of got what felt like taken away from us, and we lost out, and we're losing out on activities that we were really looking forward to. Some people have said they're happy. They had a lot on their plate, and they've had an opportunity to be with their family and sort of slow down. So we have a lot of emotions going on, and even within our organization and even within teams, we go the whole gauntlet. I mean, you name it, and I felt it. I feel, I felt a lot of different emotions through this, and I feel empathetic to you guys as you go through this and the emotions that you're dealing with. I felt scared about what's going on, overwhelmed, angry, happy. I mean, all of that at some point during this time frame, I have felt as well. And I lose sleep a lot worrying about each of your girls, worrying about your families, going over all of the thought processes that we've been going on and the decisions we're making. That's all bouncing around in my head at night. And so this is a time that we're dealing with a lot, and we're all coming at it from different places. And so when we are coming at this emotional time, what we are striving for as an organization is to seek information, to seek guidance from many different sources and many different places, to approach the decisions and our thought process with reason, with empathy, with kindness, knowing that we're all having different struggles that we're facing, and different worries and emotions and all of that. It's truly my belief that out of hard times and challenges, we can come out stronger and we can come out better. And so I'm hopeful of what our organization, what the athletes, what our families, what softball as a whole, all of this will learn and grow from this situation. I think this is a defining moment for us and for our athletes. And so it's something that's going to really sort of stick in their mind and teach them lessons about sort of driving their own boat, having that sort of drive on their own, empathy, sort of hard work, going through hard times, all of that. I think it's a defining moment. I'm defined in my life at a similar age to many of these girls by 9/11, and I think each of us have those defining moments that change us and help us grow. And so out of this situation, I'm really hopeful that we're going to keep growing together and we're going to learn a lot. At the end of the day, what we strive for as an organization and what our goal is just to do what we feel like, given what we know and what we're facing, is the best that we can for our A's family. We know that any decisions we make are not going to be 100% in line with every single person in this organization. That's just not possible. And so that's why we're looking at a lot of different sources of information as we're making these decisions and as we're approaching a really difficult and unprecedented time. So with that said, the first thing is sort of what has gone into this decision-making process. So when I say that we are sort of looking at many different sources of information. What do I mean by that? We surveyed A's families, so I'm sure you all saw the surveys come through. So one that was sort of just to the organization as a whole. We sort of divvied up and asked some particular teams and age groups different questions and information to get a feel for what are your pain points, pressure points, fears, worries, what you're comfortable with, those types of things to help us understand where each of our families are coming from. We've had discussions with A's coaches. So we've talked to coaches as a whole pretty, several times throughout this time frame. I've talked one-on-one with coaches. We've had some small subset groups that have been talking about sort of their age group and return to play and different things. So we've had lots of different versions of discussions with the A's coaches. We've had discussions with medical professionals. So I've been on calls and conferences with different sports, with people from the CDC that are trying to guide us back to return to play, with people from Johns Hopkins, with people from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So different people who want to see sports return and that are guiding how we should go about that, the types of considerations that we should be looking at. And our Department of Health, the different states' departments of health, and just trying to understand what we should be thinking about. We've talked to lawyers, just trying to think of what are appropriate return to play protocols. What are the types of things that we should be thinking of when we're laying all of this out? Discussions with other travel ball organizations. So I've had pretty regular conversations with a group of Chicago area travel ball organization leaders to just try to understand how they are approaching things, to brainstorm, to think of ideas for how our area can address this. Also talking to travel ball organization leaders outside this area. And one person that has been a good reference for me is a big Virginia organization, because they have some similar concerns with their state. And so just exploring other organizations and how they're approaching it, talking to different governing bodies. So Triple Crown has been leading the way with a lot of thoughts and different ideas for how to go about putting in place protocols and changing things, following what ASA, PGF, what our local tournament directors. So just kind of following those governing bodies and listening to their discussions, asking them questions about where their ideas came from and having those. And then discussions with college coaches, understanding what are their concerns, what do they think their summer will look like, what do they think beyond their summer will look like, and just getting a feel for where they are and their process. So once, as we take into consideration that, all of the different things that we just talked about in the different areas, what we have checked that with is, okay, what are our key values? As we consider all of these things, what do we want to keep checking our sort of ideas and solutions to? And so the first thing for us was to lay out, what is the goal of each age group? What right now, not what did we do in the past, but what right now are we trying to accomplish this summer with what we can for this age group? What are their goals from softball, and how can we look at that? The safety of our athletes, coaches, and families. And so, of course, the COVID concerns and transmission and all of those things that we're balancing and looking at and trying to understand, but also ramp up. We have athletes that have been out of game practice for months. And so whether they're doing some stuff at home, which is amazing, and we're trying to help support that, but it's just not game speed. And so as we're getting back on the field, how can we appropriately ramp the girls up to avoid pulled hamstrings, pulled quads, sore arms, all of this sort of excessive soreness and injury that we want to make sure that we try our best to limit. And then empathy, just understanding that at the end of the day, as I'll continue to say, we have widely different opinions and fears and worries and concerns and struggles and all of that. And so just understanding that all of our situations are unique, and we're looking at that and trying to have empathy to our families as we are approaching that. So what we have been doing, action items, things that we have been working on to put in place. Social distancing protocols for practices and games. So looking to, the jurisdictions that we might be practicing in, sort of what they have in place already, and then understanding for ourselves what that looks like and what the translation is like for our team. So, how far we want to space out at practice, different things that we're going to want to do for that, limiting spectators, that type of thing. Sanitizing protocols, so starting to pile up hand sanitizer, disinfectant, the type of things that we're going to want to clean equipment with and what that looks like. Um, Starting to focus on when the girls are touching their face and different things as we get back onto the field, and understanding that. Protocols for S2. So to the extent we're going to use S2 to help us with some of our training, we fall under a gym, and so we will sort of fall in the gym fitness center guidelines of Illinois. And so we're just starting to lay out what that looks like, what social distancing looks like, and sort of understand those parameters and what that looks like. Protocols for if there's a positive test or if someone has symptoms. So getting a feel for sort of what happens in that circumstance, and how long people should be quarantined, and what that looks like. What it looks like if it's a coach on the team, which is sort of a unique situation. And so we're just working through those possibilities. And then securing practice fields. So in Illinois, there's different park districts are having different opinions and feelings on what June 1st will look like as we enter phase 3 in Illinois. And so what we've been doing is talking to Orland and helping draw out what a practice plan under 10 people with sort of limited equipment use could look like to get them comfortable that we can follow the guidelines. We've also been exploring some Northwest Indiana fields. And so just looking at what our practice fields options are and securing those. And so what all of this kind of will look like for you guys in the next couple weeks is we're putting in place sort of our best practices and guidelines and protocols that match sort of the guidance that we've received for our coaches to understand and help follow, to work through some small group things and just try to explore some different options. And so you guys will all have access and receive those things and understand what that will look like as we get going. As I mentioned, we tried to lay out sort of the goals of each age group to help us, decide what that looks like as we're going into, different play and going forward. So for our 9U to 13U age groups, what we really want to happen is to play some games, to get the girls together, to get them with their friends, to get them on the field. And so we're looking at local games and tournaments. Not really worried here, not trying to do overnight stay or hotels, just staying local, playing games, doing the best we can within those limitations. 14U, our goal here is to prepare for 16U. So 16U, as we know, just sort of bumps up in training and competition and expectations. And so that really, the rest of this summer, getting the girls prepared for that. And so we want to train, we want to play competitive tournaments and games. And so we believe we can do that while staying in a reasonable commuting distance. And so around 2 hours, where for those families that would prefer not to stay in a hotel, they have the option of returning. And so we're looking at the schedule for that. 16U, and here we're really focused on our 21s and 22s, those sort of recruiting age athletes. We want to provide the best opportunities we can for exposure, obviously given the limitations that we've sort of been dealt. We're going to work to train and play competitive tournaments. We're trying really hard to stay sort of within driving distance. And so looking at regional opportunities, we will have some overnight stay. And again, always optional for those athletes and families that don't feel comfortable for that hotel. As I've said sort of multiple times, there will be no sort of punishment or ramification for families that just decide that's not something they feel comfortable with. But for those recruiting age groups, we will be going a little out of the local area and probably having some overnight stay. For our 18Us, and really here we're talking 2020s, our goal is to prepare for college. And so try to train this summer, play competitive tournaments and games, work to just stay within that commuting distance, so that to the extent families want to return home, don't want to stay in those hotels, that they have those options. So how will refunds work? Obviously, this is a question we're getting a lot. We are tracking all of the tournaments, all of the refunds that we're receiving, dividing that, between each age group. And so at the end of the year, we will divvy up each of those, as that team has gotten refunds, we'll divvy that up and disperse that at the end of the year. So not trying to sort of hold on to those tournaments that aren't happening. We're keeping track of that. Your coaches have access to that file and are continuing to update that. So what you guys should sort of expect to happen next. We are working through our individual team schedules. So some of you might have already heard from your coaches. You will continue to hear from your coaches as things are changing and evolving for those schedules. And so we don't know exactly what things are going to look like. So, and, you know, unfortunately, in the past, we sort of said, here's our schedule. And unless it rains, it kind of stuck with that. We are trying our best to lay out as of now what that schedule looks like, and with the understanding that jurisdictions might change, things might sort of shift and evolve. And so we're trying our best to get an idea of the possible schedules and what those will look like. And over the next week and a half, we'll keep laying those out for you as best we can. We are working to secure fields and are really hoping to start practice June 1st. We think we can do this. We're going to follow the local jurisdiction social distancing policies, as well as those protocols I discussed that we're putting in place. And so we're looking at fields. It seems like we have some pretty good Illinois options. We'll keep it under the 10 people and sort of divide into small groups. We have some Northwest Indiana options as well. And so we are really hopeful and confident as of now that we can start practices in some way. It might look a little different, but June 1st. As you have questions, if you feel like, you know, something came up from this, or there's something that you really just like realize later that you have a question, reach out to your coach first. They probably have the answer. We're talking a lot. We continue to communicate, and so reach out to your coach. And if they don't have that answer, of course, they put you in touch with me. Be prepared to be flexible. As I keep saying, we are doing our best to lay out what we think is happening, can happen as of now, but it's just not going to be as set in stone as it has been in the past, and things are going to keep shifting and adjusting. And so we're doing our very best to lay out things as we have information and know, but be prepared that things will change and adjust as the season goes on, and we will do our very, very best to communicate as soon as those changes are happening. I gave everyone the opportunities to sort of submit questions, and to the extent I haven't already addressed them, I'm gonna answer those. So there were only two that weren't addressed specifically. I think one of them sort of was addressed, but just so I can give you a specific answer. One was whether practices would only be outside, or if we'd be practicing at S2. As I mentioned, we will use S2 a little in guidance with what we're allowed to do in Illinois. And so in phase 3, which as of now is June, hopefully, we can do groups of 10 outside and sort of one-on-one work. And so what we're envisioning right now and what we're still trying to work and lay out is for our older teams to do some strength and conditioning outside, social distance, sort of far apart, everyone have their own little pod and working area, and then some work, possibly one-on-one work, probably targeted to pitchers, so we can ramp them back up inside to the extent that we can work that out with schedules. And so that's how we're thinking of S2 right now. To start, it will be pretty limited, and the large majority of work will be outside. Even at S2, it will be outside. And so as we go on, if things keep progressing and they look good and we sort of work into phase 4, then we might use S2 a little more. Again, still with social distancing and sanitizing and all of that we're working through. What are the recruiting rules was another question. So the NCAA extended the dead period for Division I coaches through June, which means that they cannot have in-person contact with recruits. And Division II then adopted that as well. And so what that means, they can't come to tournaments, they can't have you on campus. For Division III and AIA, JUCO, it's sort of being led by the institutions. So to the extent the colleges are allowing them to go out, they'll still be able to be there. I think there are kind of a lot of restrictions in place based on the institution, based on the coaching staffs of what they will be doing during June. The NCAA is reconvening at the end of May to consider whether or not they're going to extend the dead period. And so we don't know exactly what July will look like. Let's assume that the dead period does not get extended. Then what will happen in July is that, again, each institution will be leading that. So we've kind of gotten a lot of different answers from coaches of whether their college is going to allow them to recruit, how far they're going to go, what their budgets look like. So beyond the NCAA rule, after that, it will be kind of really dependent on what that school and institution is doing. So those are the rules as of now. Those are the only two questions. So sort of to leave you guys here, just some final thoughts. We did not choose this situation. I would give anything to be practicing, to be going to watch high school games right now of our girls, and to just sort of be outside and living our normal lives. And so this is an extremely difficult situation, and I feel the girls, and I feel for your families, and really wish that we sort of weren't in this situation. So knowing how difficult it is, and that it's not something we're sort of choosing, no decision that we make, that other organizations make, really no decision is going to be perfect. We can't align perfectly with everyone, and so we're just doing our best to take all that information that we're getting and make the most sort of informed, thoughtful decision guided by the things that we feel like it should be guided by. Keep being flexible, understand that the situation is fluid, things are changing so rapidly. In March, one day we were open, one day we were closed, and here we are in May. And so, things are changing, regions are changing, they might be open and closed, they might be closed and open. And so we're watching all of that, and we're trying to follow it, and understanding what the goals of each age group are as those situations change and arise. We want to be adaptable and flexible to make changes accordingly. So, we're watching the situation, and as things change and evolve, we're following that. So be flexible with your coaches, be flexible with the organization, understand that things are changing and evolving. Approach everything with empathy and kindness. We're all in different boats. We're all coming at this from different places. I would encourage you to stay off of like group conversations when you're sort of voicing things, because we just don't know where everyone's coming from. And so we are trying our best to make the best decisions that we can, that give us all the best opportunities to fit within those goals, and understanding safety and all of that. But we just have to have empathy for different situations. And so you never hurt to come at places from empathy and kindness. And so we got to just keep remembering that. So that's the end. I appreciate you guys for coming out. Like I said, what you guys are going to see over the next couple weeks, practice times, hopefully, getting going sort of June 1st, laying out what that looks like, small groups, all of that. You'll see some proposed tentative schedules from your coaches if you haven't already, working through those concepts. You're going to see some protocols coming through of sort of the types of things that we're going to put in place, and what that looks like and what you can expect. We're just talking here about cleaning, asking about symptoms, making sure we're not coming sick, staying away from each other when we can, coaches not sort of, getting too close to the athletes, not bringing, full groups of people to watch practices and stuff. So, we're talking about sort of some basic concepts that we're looking at. So you'll see those coming down to you, and that's kind of where we are right now, and I'm very hopeful and excited to see the girls soon, a couple weeks, week and a half, what is today, yeah, about 2 weeks, and get going, and sort of start getting a sense of normalcy, get softball back in their lives, get back on the field. Won't look the same, but we're working hard for it to get to a place where we feel like it's going to be a positive experience, and we're going to get out of this on the other side stronger, more united, and learning a lot, and improving everything. So appreciate you guys so much. Appreciate your patience, your understanding. Just very thankful to be a part of the A's family, and looking forward to get going the next couple of weeks. And like I said, if you have questions, reach out to your coach first, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your Tuesday night